He chose the diner because it was the only place where he felt invisible. The lights were dim, the tables were chipped, and no one there asked questions about shoes that had been resoled too many times or jackets worn past their prime. To him, it was honest. No pretending, no performance, just food that tasted the same every time and a bill that didn't make his heart race. When he told her the name of the place, there was a pause on the phone, brief, controlled, but he heard it. Still, she agreed. That surprised him more than anything. He arrived early, as always. Old habits from years of clocking in before sunrise. He wiped the table with a napkin, even though it was already clean, straightened the salt and pepper, and checked his phone once. No messages. He told himself that was fine. People like her had busy lives, important calendars. He reminded himself that this wasn't an interview, even though his stomach acted like it was. She walked in wearing a coat that probably cost more than his monthly rent. The bell over the door rang, and the entire diner seemed to notice without meaning to. Not because she was flashy, she wasn't, but because she carried herself like someone, used to being listened to. Her eyes scanned the room, landed on him, and softened. That look alone made the cheap booth feel suddenly smaller, like the walls were listening. She smiled and sat across from him without hesitation. No comment about the cracked vinyl seat. No glance at the faded menu taped to the wall. That should have eased him, but it didn't. Instead, it made him more aware of everything he was not. They talked easily at first. Small things, the weather, the strange music the diner always played late at night. He made her laugh once, unexpectedly, and she covered her mouth like she hadn't planned to. That moment stayed with him. He noticed how she listened, really listened when he spoke, even about things that didn't matter. He didn't tell her much about his job, only that he worked long hours and preferred staying out of the spotlight. She said she admired that. He didn't know how to respond. When the waitress came, he ordered the cheapest meal on the menu out of habit, then caught himself and almost changed it. He didn't. She ordered the same thing without looking at the prices. That small act hit him harder than any compliment could have. Kindness often arrives quietly, and most people miss it. He didn't. Halfway through the meal, a group at the next table started whispering. He felt it before he heard it, the familiar tightening in his chest. One of them glanced at her, then at him, then laughed under his breath. He recognized that look. Judgment wrapped in amusement. He lowered his voice without meaning to, his shoulders pulling inward. She noticed. Of course she did. "Are you okay?" she asked. He nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just tired." She didn't push. Another kindness, another quiet mercy. What he didn't know, what no one in that diner knew, was that earlier that same day, his name had been spoken in a glass-walled boardroom 20 floors above the city. Not with respect, with irritation. His reports had delayed something. His refusal to sign off on numbers that didn't add up had made people uncomfortable. In that room, discomfort was treated like betrayal. Someone had laughed then, too. Back in the diner, his phone buzzed once. A message preview flashed across the screen before he could stop it. He didn't open it, but he didn't need to. He knew the tone. He slid the phone face down and forced a smile. She saw that, too. "You don't have to pretend," she said gently. "Not with me." That was the moment something shifted. Not dramatically. No music, no tears. Just a realization settling into his bones. He had spent years being careful, being useful, being quiet so others could stay comfortable. And here she was, sitting across from him in a place most people avoided, offering him space without asking for anything in return. The food arrived. Steam rose between them like a fragile barrier. He ate slowly, suddenly aware of how rarely he allowed himself to enjoy things. She told him a story about her first job, about being underestimated, about watching someone else take credit for her work while she stayed silent. There was a weight beneath her. Words, experience, loss. He listened the way he wished. Someone had listened to him years ago. At another table, a man dropped his wallet. It spilled open, cards and cash sliding across the floor. Without thinking, he stood up and helped gather everything. The man barely acknowledged him, just took the wallet and turned away. She watched the exchange closely, her expression unreadable. "You didn't hesitate," she said once he sat back down. He shrugged. "Seemed like the right thing." She nodded as if confirming something to herself. What he didn't know was that the Man who had dropped his wallet worked for the same corporation that paid both of them, one openly, one quietly. What he didn't know was that she had recognized him instantly, not as a diner customer, but as the analyst whose name had been flagged in red earlier that day. The one people wanted gone because he wouldn't play along. She said nothing. When the bill came, he reached for it automatically. She didn't stop him, but her eyes softened again. He paid in cash, counting carefully. The waitress thanked him by name. He came here often enough for that. As they stood to leave, the group from the other table snickered again. Louder this time. One of them muttered something about aiming. Low. He felt the old. Reflex. Silence. Retreat. Acceptance. Rise in him like muscle memory. She turned toward them. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut cleanly through the room. If you think kindness is cheap, she said, you've been overpaying for the wrong things. The diner went still. No shouting, no drama. Just truth spoken once. She took his arm and walked him out before he could say a word. Outside, the air felt colder, sharper. He laughed nervously, apologizing for something he couldn't name. She stopped him. Don't, she said. You didn't do anything wrong. He believed her, somehow. They stood there for a moment, the neon sign buzzing behind them. He thought about the message on his phone, about the meeting he wasn't invited to, about how easily good people were erased in quiet ways. She looked at him like she saw all of that. I'm glad you chose this place, she said. It tells me more than any resume ever could. He smiled, unaware that by morning, the same people who laughed at him would be scrambling, unaware that the woman standing in front of him held more power than all of them combined, unaware that his kindness, his silence, his refusal to bend, noticed tonight over cheap food and chip plates, was about to change everything.